Anyway, yeah. So what else were you looking for in terms of feedback on this game, on Blades of
I
Doom?
was looking for feedback on the idea of me selling the game because this is my first time selling a game,
Hmm.
and I was wanting to try it out because I am currently working on another game, which when I'm done with it, I am wanting to sell it. So I figured since the original version of this game was pretty good, that I figured if I were to add any extra features to it, I could add them to a paid version as like I don't know, um, reward for people buying the game, I
Hmm.
guess, and supporting me, I guess.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I just wanted your feedback on like, would you pay the $2 for the extra features in this game? And also like, haven't had anybody actually like buy the game yet, so I was
Hmm.
wondering if you could like give me any like marketing advice. I made a trailer and put it on my YouTube channel, but no one's actually like played the game.
So
So
Benjamin,
yeah.
I'm gonna show you a thing with no word of a lie. Here is my gross revenue from itch.io, from trying to make and sell games over many years. I have only made this much money, and the only reason I have made this $630 is because of my participation in the 10 mg bundle, where I
Um,
partnered with a bunch of other creators. And you can see that we had some incredibly generous people purchasing this. So essentially, for every $10 you see here, I received one. So of the money that I've received on itch.io in general, roughly $530 came from the participation in this bundle. So
right.
I am not the kind of person who can give concrete feedback on marketing and sales and such. I just wanted to check the expectations there. Um,
Right.
yes, bad pop. Um, oh wow, that's, I mean, like my Twitch earnings are even less. Like I I think I've maybe made $150 on Twitch. Anyway, that's beside the point. So yeah, I would say itch.io is a pretty small market. In
Would you
general,
recommend something like Steam?
it's that's also tough because I have also released games on Steam, and I have also, I would consider that uh, the same deal, right? Like I was participating in the 10 mg bundle, and um, so I made some revenue from that. I made some revenue from the first like major game that I released on Steam, but then otherwise, I don't think I've made enough money with Orbit to have earned back the deposit, the $100 deposit that it costs to put a game up on Steam.
Right.
So, in terms of your personal experience of distributing a game on Steam, I would say it is probably worth the price of admission. Like, if you just put the game up and have a free demo, because you can do that. You can create like a demo page on Steam. You can say like, this is the free version,
Right.
then here's the paid version. Here's some advice that we came to when we were making the 10-minute game bundle. Each of these games are individually priced at $3. And well, okay, not all of them. We sort of generally agreed that we should price them at $3 Canadian, and or I guess $3 US, which is 339 Canadian. Anyway, if people are willing to make a purchase, they are generally willing to make at least a $3 purchase. Like, it's cute to sell a game for $1, but it's not, like, it's barely worth the transaction fee at that point. It seems like most people
Right.
are willing to make at least a $3 purchase. I think $2 US for a game like this, like Blades of Doom, I would actually say that's about right. I would think that like were it not for the research we did, I would have said like, yeah, $2 seems totally fair. But I would say you could pretty safely release the game on Steam for $3. And if you just think about it in terms of a learning experience of like, here's what it's like to go through the process of getting a game onto Steam. And then other than that, the advice that I would have to give on like actually releasing a game on Steam is largely stuff that I have learned since the games that I have released there. One thing that I think is important is getting some real fancy artwork for your capsule.
Right.
I was very lucky with this first game here with Zarnok Fortress to actually be working with a artist who made this super fancy capsule image that you're seeing here. It doesn't do a great job at showing the game's title. I don't even know if Steam would okay this nowadays because the game name is so small relative to the picture. And this also doesn't tell you anything about the game. This doesn't look like a platforming game. So while I do think it's a fancy piece of key art, I don't think it actually properly captures what the game's about. So I know that's very important. Having GIFs on your Steam page is incredibly important. Having this key feature list, this is actually something that Steam is going to want you to have. Like, there's a reason that you see a like list of features on every Steam page is because like Steam actually asks you to do that. So as a Steam partner, there are some things that I can say. Like, obviously, I'm not supposed to open up the Steam backend and show anyone what that looks like, but I mean, what, for $100 you can get registered as a developer and see it for yourself. They don't push Steam trading cards anymore as much as they used to. They used to want every single game to feature Steam trading cards, and now they're like, don't come to us, we'll come to you if you want Steam trading cards. But yeah, just in terms of getting your game noticed by people, I think that there's a lot of stuff that I could try to advise on, but just like not having any commercial success of any significant amount to speak to myself. I don't want to be trying to. I don't want to give any specific advice. I want to give general advice that sounds good to me. Just know that it hasn't been something that I've been able to put into practice myself.
Right. Yeah.
So, let's see. Is there anything else? I guess I can tell you where I'm at right now is that the next game that I'm actually going to release on Steam, I'm preparing a very fancy presentation. I am going to try to find a publisher because having released, 2 full games by myself and then that one short one as part of the 10mg bundle, I am sick of putting games out on Steam to watch them die. And
yeah,
what I'm doing is I'm going for broke on putting in as much effort as I can into making a like very polished version of Worlds Within Worlds. And I'm hoping that this pitch is going to be something that I can use to get a publisher. This key art that you're seeing of this little kiwi and this owl, I commissioned that from Hayden, and without going into specifics, it cost thousands of dollars to get the key art for this game. And that is all part of what is going to hopefully like visually set this game apart from others, is having better key art, having a story, having music from Mark Sparling, who like, it's Mark's music that's in the game right now, but I want to actually commission unique music, and that's going to cost thousands of dollars. So I think that, unfortunately, the best advice that I am following right now is that if you're going to try to really succeed on Steam, you need to make a big splash that sets you apart from everyone else. And I think that putting up Blades of Doom on Steam as a as an experiment to just get used to that process in terms of saying like, okay, I went through the process of doing this. I understand what I'm doing. It's going to give me a better insight as to what it's going to look like um, for when the time comes for a game that I actually care about. But yeah, there's a whole can of worms that even I am just learning about that goes into any kind of like success when it comes to a Steam releasing on Steam.
Right. Is it much different for releasing games on itch, or it's the same?
I think that most of your traffic from selling a game on itch.io are the conscientious gamers who see your game on sale on Steam and then say, "I wonder if this is on itch.io because if I buy it there, they'll get a better cut." So I
Right.
I'm sure there are people who use itch.io exclusively. Steam be damned because of the like it's you don't want to support big corporations like Valve, but I think that the vast majority of the interest you're pulling into your game is going to come from Steam and other platforms. Just seeing a game being available on Steam, like even if it just, everyone knows it costs $100, but somehow it is that proof that you care. That,
Right.
yeah. Also, Bad Cop, what you mentioned about getting wish lists on Steam is incredibly important. However, you can't just go around and saying, hey, please wishlist my game, unless people actually are going to buy the game. Because if Steam sees you're getting a bunch of wish lists and then they release the game and then no one actually follows through on those wish lists, you might get on the like new and up and coming for a short amount of time, but then when they see that those wish lists are stale and people aren't engaging with it, then they just drop you right off and good luck ever getting featured again. So yes, wish lists are important, but Steam is kind of catching on to the fact that everyone is trying to game the wish lists in the same way that people got into the practice of gaming Steam Greenlight to get their games approved. So unfortunately, we are ever fighting this war of escalation in terms of how do we defeat the algorithm? How do we get our games noticed? So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you wanted to ask about right now?
I don't think so. Yeah, I think that's it. You've already said like what you wanted in the game, like fix the platforms, and then I will try and get the hearts and things like that to not spawn in bad locations when it's about to switch.
Okay, sounds
Do
good.
you, based on the original game, do you think these new features fix a lot of the original issues that you were having with the game?
It's been just long enough that I'd have to actually like go back and play the original version of the game just to see. So let me call that up on the web browser here. Just remind myself what that looks like. Whoop. There we go. So yeah, people can get a sort of direct comparison of what the game looks like. Yeah, so you did add the like background rectangles that clue you in when something is about to come in that direction.
Yeah. There's also no power up.
Yes, right. Yeah, the power-ups I did remember those were not in the original game. I think you've definitely like you've addressed the like key concerns I would say with the original experience. And that's why I say like I guess the most like maybe painful question I always have to ask is like if you saw this game just randomly and knew nothing about it, would you yourself click onto it and be interested in purchasing it?
Yeah. Maybe not. I don't know.
Because the game
I'm not
itself,
someone who buys just like $2 games like on the App Store for my phone.
yeah.
So yeah, I probably would not.
because the game itself, like you've got a great like neon visuals and everything. Like the aesthetics in the game look great. The Blades of Doom text. Did you make that in Photoshop?
Yes.
Yeah, I I think it is fitting and it matches the aesthetic of the game itself. But I also think that um,
It could be better.
I'm really trying to find a kind way of saying this, but it looks like this is where you need to consider, is it worth the cost of paying someone who is a professional at logo design, right? Like I mentioned,
Right.
you can spend thousands of dollars on commissioning fancy artwork to get that good thumbnail that people are going to click and then see what the game
You
has to
have to
offer.
do a lot of investment into your game.
Exactly. So, and that's a big part of the struggle that I'm facing right now is like how much money do I have to spend just to make a pitch to then maybe secure more publisher funding to then spend that money on commissioning artwork and music and programming that is beyond my capabilities and so on. Um, but yeah, so that's where like if you check your expectations in terms of like what you're going to get from sales, if you sort of have an objective in your mind of like, okay, I am putting this out there to test the waters and see what I can get in terms of starting to build up a following, and I again, these are all things that I am not myself good at, but is the process that I imagine one must go through in order to see success on any of these platforms.
Right.
So do as I say, not as I do, but do as I'm trying, not as I've done, I guess.
Yeah.
And then, as Bad Cop mentions, and a big part of Steam is having greater than 2 hours of content. Yes, because people will just
Right.
buy and then immediately return your game. One thing I will say, that 10mg game that we released, here we go. So this game, we were very clear about the fact that the whole point of the 10mg bundle is that each of these games is only a 10-minute experience. We were super upfront with saying these are short games. Like, don't be surprised when you buy the game and it's 10 minutes long. So
Right.
that setting of expectations is also incredibly important. That I think that is the biggest way that you will not incur people refunding your game is if you are super clear about like with your messaging and saying like,
Yeah.
this is the game, this is the experience. If you want this, then consider purchasing it. And at that point, I don't even know, like, this is a game that is difficult to demo because like what do you
Yeah.
show that isn't just the game, right?
This is the reason I've also not been like selling games before, because I've had a fear of like I really don't want to rip people off and like them to just complain. It's like I thought I was gonna get something more than what I got.
Yeah. And it's true. Like I think that is where the expectation management becomes a big part of it, and that's where like you have very clear messaging in terms of the description of your game on the Steam page, in terms of GIFs that show what the game is, and you can even like don't be afraid to include a picture of the leaderboard that shows like, yeah, this is a 2-minute experience. Or it's an experience that like you're going to play hopefully over the course of many like 2-minute. The fact that this has multiplayer is a nice value add as well. One thing, like, it really depends on how far you want to go with this particular project. I can imagine creating alternate arenas is a possibility,
Right.
but again, do you want to put your energy and time into this game, or do you want to put your energy and time into that other project that you're working on down the line?
Yeah, exactly. I'm probably gonna work on my new project.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm gonna fix up like bringing over that platform flashing to the other platforms that have supported Android in the next.
Okay.
That's probably gonna be it, unless like people find bugs and stuff. Just because, yeah, I'm wanting to work on my new game.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. Well, I know that's like not everything that I could possibly say on the subject, but I think that is at least a good collection of stuff. So,
I have a good idea now. Definitely
all right.
more than what I did before.
Okay, glad to hear it. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Thanks again for sending me the game key for this. I do think it's a fun
You're
game,
welcome.
and
Thanks.
I just wonder, like, can you convince other people to buy it?
No
Maybe.
one else has bought it right now. And
Yeah,
that's also
yeah.
the other reason why I haven't been selling games, because it's like I want people to play my game, and I feel like I wish I could just like send out game keys to
Hmm.
everybody and just make my game free. But unfortunately, like I need money to survive.
Yeah.
So it's like, uh,
It's true, and it is a big part of the balancing act of like, is this a hobby or is this a profession? And that is something
right,
that I am also like right in the middle of. I am thinking about like, oh man, to make a game that is going to sell means a game that you need to invest in, means a game that you're going to spend like months, years of your life working on, or just have this like perfect, amazing idea that is so perfectly executed that you can put something together and just have it like be a big flash in the pan. And it usually means working together with other people. Like that is another big thing that I wish I had more connections. I wish I had more people that I could team up with to work on stuff, because that is how you get big game in a short amount of time, is by working together with other people. So yeah, I mean there is that sentiment of like, I want people to play my games, I want people to enjoy them, I enjoy making them, but I also need to make a living. And the stresses that come with making a game that is going to sell and is like you're trying to make your living off of it can mean that it's not as much fun to make it anymore, because it's a job now, it's work. Even if you're making the
right.
game of your dreams, you are now like crossing your fingers that this thing will work, will earn you money, and it's a difficult spot to be in. So just know that it is the struggle is real, and don't get caught off guard if you have these feelings of like struggling with what you're like, what is most important to you as an artist, as a creator, as someone just trying to make a living. It's something that we're all gonna have to go through when we're on our own personal game development journeys.
Yeah,
Yeah, as LMG says, it's
yeah.
the game dev dream of being able to just make the games that you want and not having to worry about making a profit.
I've seen similar things like behind the scenes of these big content creators on YouTube making YouTube videos.
Hmm.
And it's not just you get to play a video game. You have to like worry about things like thumbnails and like retention rates, and
Hmm.
because if the video does badly, you're not going to get any money from it.
Hmm.
And it's quite stressful.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've got these people who are like turning out like a video a week, a video a month, or whatever, and it's like, well, if that video didn't get a million views, then I guess you're gonna have a rough month. So
Yeah.
it's tough. Like YouTubing, streaming. At the end of the day, like as you said, LMG, it is work. Like there are definitely aspects of streaming that I enjoy. Like I enjoy having conversations like this one. I enjoy trying out games like this one. Um, there are some games that I play on the stream that it's like trying my patience a bit. Thankfully, neither of the games that I played today were anywhere near like that. Um, yeah, exactly. Content creation as a game dev is like same as working two jobs. I would say it can be the same as working many jobs. Like if you're the programmer, the artist, the writer, the composer, the the producer, like, no, bad cop. I got through your games. I got through the boss battle in oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the name of it, but yeah, exactly. You wear a lot of hats. It's not just two jobs, it's a lot. And you gotta hope that you enjoy a good aspect of it. Or better yet, find people to partner with and work together on something. And then you have that trade-off of like, well, is it the game that I wanted to make? But I don't know. I would much rather work together with a group of people and make something that we're all proud of than slave away for years at making something that just like by myself, that I don't have the expertise needed to make all these aspects the best that they can be.
The best outcome is if you work in a team
Hmm.
and you are all equally happy about the idea and you're all on board and you get to make the game that you want and you don't have to trade anything for that, which is why like things like you working at a company is like the ultimate of like working with other people, but chances are you're not going to get to make the game which is your design
Hmm.
and your idea.
Yeah. And the moment that, like, I was saying that I'm trying to get a publisher on board for my next game, and it's like the moment that I do, the moment I start having to listen to that publisher's demands. Like, they are not here to make games as art. They are here for enforcing games as a business. They are here to make these products get a return on investment. They want your game to succeed because they want to earn money from it. And one thing I will just say is I have met people who say, I've been working on my game for years. Why should I give away 50% of my profits to a publisher? And, I did all this work. What are they doing? They are going to sell your game, ideally. You want a publisher who is actually going to invest in the development of your game. You want a publisher who is actually going to give you money to finish making the game, because that gives them buy-in. That makes them concerned with like actually getting your game out there so they can recoup their own investment. And the reality is like, yeah, you can put in tons and tons and tons of years of effort into something, and then don't you want that game to have the best possible chance of succeeding that it can?
Right, yeah.
Because there are people who are individuals who can just never compare yourself to the indie darlings, right? Never compare
Yeah,
yourself to Celeste. Never compare yourself to Undertale, because there are hundreds of thousands of games that are not those two, like,
they're the
big
lucky
games.
ones.
Yeah, exactly. They are the exceptions. They have won the lottery. You have to be more realistic with yourself. You have to look at your own followership, your own fan base. I'm looking at my 670 hard fought Twitch followers here and my, like, I don't know, a couple hundred followers on Twitch, and it's like, that is not going to sell a game. I need someone who actually
Right.
understands this stuff. I am going to be hoping that the publisher can handle the marketing and PR, because I'm terrible at it. I know this of myself. This is why I was like couching everything early on when we started our conversation with this, like, I want you to understand just how bad I am at this, because I don't want to be giving you advice that you think like, okay, cool, this person knows what they're doing. It's like, I don't. I am trying. I'm doing my best, but yeah, it's hard. It's very, very hard.
Right. I've considered, which is probably what I'm gonna do,
Mhm.
uh, have a job, like maybe working at a company, like a
Mhm.
game dev company, where I go in with the expectation of I am not going to be able to make the game of my own idea. But then on the side, I could make my own games and like put them on itch for even free if I wanted to,
Mhm.
and then let people like donate what they want. But then, so I can have money,
Mhm.
but then I would also be able to like um, show people my ideas
Yeah.
and things like that. And maybe one of those games gets really popular and stuff and grows my audience on itch or steam, which will allow me to make an actual like full game where I can use it as income, and then I won't need to work at a job. But starting off, maybe 2 jobs is better.
I think that I think being realistic with yourself and understanding, like everyone's financial position is different, right? Like some people have a lot more support and backing, and they can afford to spend years working on a passion project. Not me. I've been working since the age of 12 to try to, summer jobs, whatever it is, just to save up the money that I need to live. And even still, I am working a day job. I am doing a 40-hour per week, like salaried job, and working on my games, doing these streams in my spare time. And the reality of living away from home, like I am living with my partner, so we at least have a double income. But, the reality of these things is that, like, adulthood, all the fun stuff that comes along with it, you are going to find that depending on your schedule, depending on how much time you get to spend seeing friends and family and so on, you'd be surprised how little time you actually have left over to work on your own games. And that is something that I am still adjusting to. But don't be surprised if a week comes and goes and you don't get to work on your game at all. Like a good week for me, like 7 days, a good 7 days for me is if I can spend 6 hours working on my game. That's it. Everything else above that is just, like maybe I can crunch for a game jam and like make a bunch of meals ahead of time and, talk with my partner, and she understands that she's not going to see me much that weekend.
But to do that every weekend,
no, it's not sustainable.
As if, yeah.
Yeah. Pomp Rocks has the comment here. I worked with someone who owned a game company. He said their games 1 out of 10 was maybe successful, not hugely successful, but just enough to pay for development. Yeah, exactly. And that's the other aspect of it is like I mentioned it before, that's like you can have that like one great idea that really catches people's attention, and that can be the thing that is going to like skyrocket you to success. Or you can take an idea and just like polish it and make sure it's the like best version of itself that can be. Don't compare yourself to Stardew Valley. Like that developer, I think, spent close to 10 years working on that game and made an incredibly polished version of that experience. You have to think about like, this is why prototyping is so important, right? Is because you have to start with something, see if that core experience is capturing people's imaginations, and if it's not, then you move on and try something else. Have you heard the mantra of like fail faster?
No, I haven't.
Okay. It's something that was mentioned, that I first saw mentioned way back in the day by Extra Credits on YouTube. And they talked about this sentiment that like, when you go to make a game, don't immediately dive in and make the most polished version of that game that you can. Start with making the version of the game that just conveys the core experience, have a game like this one where you just play as a square, moving around on other square platforms. Don't worry about the artwork, don't worry about anything, because what you are trying to evaluate is that core experience. Do people find that fun? And that's what game jams are great for, because everyone has that expectation. It's like, okay, everything's kind of rough around the edges, don't worry about it. Which is not to say that there aren't teams who work together to make some incredibly polished jam games, and those definitely get their fair share of the attention. But I think what matters most is that people check their expectations when they're coming into a jam game. Like, sure, there are these standout teams like Guillotine and the other team that's like, I've played a couple of their games, Fartfish, and the people who made Two Time and Towers. Like that's another team that is producing some like time and time again some really high quality jam games. But the core idea of using jam games to test out experiences is a good one. Like I'm I'm decently happy with where Worlds Within Worlds the reception is. Like of all the games that I've released on itch.io, it's the one that has gotten the most plays. And it did just well enough that it caught the attention of Armor Games, and I got to release it on there. So now it's garnered like 45,000 plays, and it's got a pretty good rating. And you can bet that I'm mentioning both of those things in the like pitch deck that I'm creating for the publisher pitch for Unless. Um, so I think that you know you at some point you have to build an audience, you have to build connections, you have to network with people, and I think that getting that day job, like working in game development, is an excellent way to build those connections as long as you stick with it. Be the person who goes out to conventions, even if it means like extra work and time that you have to spend. You if you are just sitting at your desk and not connecting with the other people in the company, not connecting with other people in the industry, you're not getting as much out of it as you could be. Again, this is speculation because I work at a startup company that is only 3 people. So we don't go to any conventions, not yet. So I have not had an opportunity to put this sort of thing in practice, but just, I mean, in what industry doesn't help to have connections, right?
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I guess all that I really wanted to make sure I said was like, brace yourself for the fact that if you are doing the day job game dev, night job game dev, like that's what I'm doing right now, just don't be surprised if life comes around and some weeks you just don't have much time to work on your game at all. Don't stress
Right.
over it. Just know that you'll come back to it and you'll have the time. And the whole point is making the most of that finite amount of time. That is the idea behind fail faster. Is that idea that if you only have 3 hours a week to work on your game, then you better make a prototype in those 3 hours that captures the core experience of your game. You can get that in front of people for free. Part of a game jam, maybe, maybe not. Just as soon as possible, get people trying out that idea, because then you'll know whether it's worth pursuing or whether it's worth moving on to the next thing.
Right.
So,
Like I found with this game, not much attention with it, so I'm gonna move on to my next project.
I think that's for the best. And I think that, like, again, be proud of what you've done here. This is a good game. No two questions about
Yes.
it. But is it something that people are going to pay for?
It's not commercially successful.
Yeah, and I think it would be. I think it's a difficult game to market. I think that it
Yeah.
would need just something a little bit more. You can take an idea like this and dress it up with a whole bunch of polish, but did you enable ratings on this game?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So you've got 2 5-star ratings so far, and I agree. I think it's a fantastic game. And for a comparison, like I said, Worlds Within Worlds is the most reviewed game that I've got, and it's only got 17
Right.
ratings.
Right, yeah.
But one way that you can get your game in front of more people is by approaching platforms like Armor Games and Cool Math Games. Because GameMaker, like we both use GameMaker. GameMaker will export. You're already doing it. You're already making
HTML.
web games. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can approach those platforms and say like, hey, here's a game I've made. Will you be willing to pay me a licensing fee to put this up on your website? And
Right.
that was the experience that I had with Worlds Within Worlds. Like, thankfully, again, this is a game that I've been working on for a very long time, and it got just a good enough reception on itch.io that they reached out to me. But don't be shy about reaching out to them. They have public contact number, emails and such. You can reach out and say like, hey, would you be interested? Sorry, I got that backwards. Cool Math Games reached out to me. I reached out to Armor Games. But my game came
Oh,
out on Armor Games first because they have a faster release cycle. Cool Math Games puts out stuff like months after in the pipeline after they initially sign on a deal. So it is a way to make a small chunk of change, like I'm not without getting into specific numbers, a couple $100. Cool Math Games
right.
pays better because they have more requirements that they want you to say. Like they will come back to you and they will help. They will genuinely play your game and say like, this was neat. Could you add this? Could you change this? Could you make sure it's like friendly for all ages, etc., etc. So with their demands, they are willing to pay more for the implementations of those things. But yeah, you can absolutely use GameMaker to approach like to make a web game that you can then approach these platforms and say like, hey, would you be interested in licensing my game? We can get in touch with email after the call's over, and I can give you some. I can give you the thread actually that I was following in terms of like what calibrated my expectations for how much they're willing to pay for those sort of
Right.
things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is another avenue, and I think it is a good way to get your game out in front of people. Is basically those platforms thought it was good enough to pay to put your game up on there, and then you just get like tons of people checking it out. I've only released one game on both platforms, so and it was on yeah, I have a head blocker turned on. It's released on Cool Math Games, and it got 654 votes. I don't know what that translates to in terms of people actually playing the game. Itch.io, you saw, was only a couple thousand people, and then Armor Games, they actually have the play count publicly displayed, and that's where I can see that it got. Oh, jeez. That's where you can see that I got the 45,000 plays. Which again, I don't know if that's good. If it goes on the front page of Armor Games, it'll get some amount of views for
Right.
sure. But yeah, that is at least one way to get your games out there and get some attention. Just
Try and make lots of connections.
yes, I think that is important no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. Both for marketing the game,
Mhm.
but also like working on the game.
Yeah, genuinely, because like there are now people that I have tried their games out on the stream and seen the kind of things that they've made, and it's like, oh, maybe when it comes to programming my next game, when it comes to programming the like full version of Unless, maybe I know some people to reach out to in terms of what their programming and capabilities are, or artists
Right.
or whatever. Like it helps to know people and it helps to be known. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah. Lots
All
of the
right.
reasons why the more popular games like Celeste and Undertale continue to do well is because they're already popular, so they keep on getting money and keep on being popular.
Yeah, it's true. But just like I think of Toby Fox had a pretty big name in terms of making music for Homestuck and the like Halloween hack that he did of Earthbound, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and just like so he had done some stuff to already make a name for himself. That's how he was able to get the successful Kickstarter in the first place. And then in terms of like why is Undertale so popular? Because it spoke to people, because that game
Right.
was like just somehow exactly the experience that people wanted and needed to see. Like that is the thing that I'm realizing. Like when you see somebody who is a YouTuber and they pour their heart and soul into their productions, and they like make all kinds of fancy 3D graphics and whatever, and they make one video every 2 months, and it's like, wow, awesome. And then you get the kind of YouTuber who kind of like what people will criticize and say, oh, they just roll out of their bed and turn on a webcam and then swear at video games. How come they're making millions of views? And the answer is because they are able to speak to their audience, because they are doing something,
Right.
they are performing in some way. Whether you want to call it talent or luck or whatever, the fact remains, somehow they got in touch with an audience and they are doing something right that gets them that level of views. Even if you think like how could this? It's not fair. The effort is not there. Why are they succeeding when these other people are putting in all this effort? And the answer always comes down to they are delivering an experience that the audience is interested in. That's why Undertale is successful. That's why these YouTubers are successful. That is why any piece of media is successful, is because it knew something about it knew or it guessed at something about the human psyche and delivered on it. And people took notice, and it was marketed the right way. Like the right people saw it, and they said, this is cool, this is totally my jam, I love this, let me tell other people about it. And yeah, like you said, then something that is popular continues to build and snowball in terms of its popularity. So yeah, I guess it's been kind of a longer conversation than expected, but hope that was helpful.
It was very helpful, thank you.
Absolutely. And anytime you have another project, like it's same thing, right? That other game you're working on, think about how you can get a vertical slice of that out. And it doesn't have to be publicly playable, but I can try it. Other streamers like Vimlark do these kind of feedback streams. Think about how you can get your game in front of people as soon as possible to get that feeling, to get that sense of whether or not it is worth pursuing, or you should try to move on to the next idea.
Am I going in the right direction with the game?
Yeah.
Because maybe the game isn't speaking to people right now, maybe, or at least the prototype isn't, but it's very close, and I am able to, at this stage of development, switch the direction the game is going in. And still be able to make a great end product. But because I prototyped it, it was a lot easier to switch the end product.
Yeah,
the early stage.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you got it. I guess the last thing I will say is, don't ever think that just polishing the idea will fix it. Like
the base concept might not work.
Yeah. Like, the way that I like to think about it is, when it comes to making a platforming game, I put a lot of time into just making sure the controls felt right. Because I always heard that, like, when it comes to making a good platforming game, even if you are not playing the level, just like moving and bouncing around as Mario should be fun. And that's because I wanted to make a fun game. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. That's what I've heard the creators of Celeste did. They spent lots of time making sure the player felt great, and they even had to redo levels because the new physics of the player just doesn't work with the old levels. But it's worth it, because if the player doesn't feel great, then the entire game won't feel great.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like, once you nail that, then you can add polish. But just don't ever think like, oh, this idea isn't great, but if I add polish to it, then people will like it. It's like, I don't want to criticize the success of Slay the Spire, but that is not a game that I consider to be very aesthetically impressive, but it's fun as hell, and that's what matters. And I think that, like, could you take Slay the Spire and replace all the artwork and make it a more appealing product? Maybe, but that wouldn't matter if the core gameplay is really what's engaging people about that experience. I think that, to me at least, and this is the thing about, like, you have to fight a war on two fronts. Like, on the one hand, you have to make sure that your game plays really well, but then you do have to polish the heck out of it and pay an artist to make it look fancy, or otherwise people are just going to scroll past you in the list and they're never going to click on your game, and they're never going to realize how good the game experience is.
You can't really advertise gameplay. You can't advertise how it feels.
Yeah.
You can only really advertise how it looks and, like, say that it feels like this, but can't really, like, tell the player that without giving them the actual game.
Exactly. You've got to put your consumer hat on and think to yourself, like, if I was just some random person browsing Steam, which games would I actually click on?
Right.
And the answer is
It's the
probably not many.
flashy ones
Hmm.
that, but then like once people like buy it and like find out that it's just flashy,
Hmm.
they'll probably refund it.
Yep,
So you
exactly.
have to have a mix.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all part of the experience. You have to deliver. You can't just bait and switch.
Yeah.
So, okay, I think we've been pretty comprehensive with this topic now.
Yep.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that this is going to be of use to you and of use to people who are watching.
Yes. Yes. This has been a big help.
Fantastic. And yeah, thanks again for sending me the key for Blades of Doom. I will drop the link in chat one more time in case anyone wants to check it out for themselves. And yeah, do you want to maybe make a quick plug? Like, where can people find you if they want to see your future games?
Well, I'm on itch. Yep. Where else am I? I'm on YouTube, but I haven't really been posting stuff on YouTube. Um, I'm mainly just trailers and stuff.
Mhm.
But mainly just itch.
Okay.
That's the main place. Technically, also on Opera GX's site, GX Games, I
Mhm.
port my games to that. And I guess if you wanted a web build of the game that has better performance and also online leaderboards, then and also if you're willing to download Opera GX, then you can play my games there as well.
Yeah, they've got an interesting
Mainly,
marketing strategy.
yeah, mainly for games, it's itch.
Cool. All right, sounds good. Well, have yourself a great weekend, and yeah, I
You
look forward
too.
to seeing what you make next.
Thanks.
All right, have a good one. Bye for now.
Bye.